Hi, how are you? I've come today to let you know all the books that I read in September. I was quite proud of myself really. I read 9. So that's not bad going actually. So I'll see what I do in October. Right, so this is what I read. And first one, The Scent of Lemon Leaves. This was a story set in Spain, and it was one that I didn't realise what I was getting into. The blurb talked about a girl who made friends with a Norwegian couple and then made friends with another elderly gentleman. It turned out it's all to do with Nazi hunters, and so it wasn't totally the book I was expecting. The characters didn't really grab me. It wasn't a book that I would sort of sing from the rooftops about. But this one I would. 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And I would thoroughly recommend it. If you know your classics, if you know the story of Troy and all the Greek heroes, this is one for you. There are so many retellings of the story of Troy at the moment. I mean, Stephen Fry is bringing out one of them shortly. But this one is from the female perspective. You'd hear the stories of the women who are the victims of the survivors of the war, the widows of the war, the slaves of the war, and it's their stories. And each chapter is a different female. You've got Andromache, you've got Penelope. It is a brilliant read, and I thoroughly recommend it. A bit different was John Clare's poetry. It had been on my bookshelf for absolutely ages. I picked this up in Helpston, which is at the cottage where he was born. We had a visit there 2 or 3 years ago, and I never actually got round to reading it, but I thought, yeah, why not? He's called the Pastoral Poet, and for me personally, his nature poems are absolutely brilliant. They're beautiful. He describes nature, he describes flowers, he describes everything in the minutest detail, and it is exquisite. His other poetry, when he's sort of talking about sighing to retirement and the peasant poet, and it's good poetry, but personally I prefer the nature stuff. I did read a couple on Kindle. Let me just see if I can grab this one. This is The Warehouse by Rob Hart. Dystopia. If you're into dystopian novels, which I am, read this one. It's set in the very near future, or it sounds as though it could be the very near future, and it's when a company, like an online company, something like Amazon, has taken over, and the company in the book is called The Cloud, and the cloud encompasses everything. The workers don't just go to work and go home. They live there, they sleep there, they eat there, they get schooled there, they get their health care there. They are in the cloud, and there's no really getting out of the cloud unless the cloud decides we don't want you anymore. It's a fascinating read about Rob Hart's view of the future and what's going to happen with all these online companies. Fascinating. This one, tiny little book, Bahumul Harabal, All My Cats. I think I pronounced his name right. It's a confessional that he wrote in, I think he was 70 when he wrote it. And at times it's really tender, but at times it is so brutal. It's his relationship with the cats that he lives with. And if you're a cat lover, maybe this isn't really one for you. It talks about responsibility and guilt, and I sort of enjoyed it, but to a couple of places and you think, oh, why? Then I moved on to young adult literature. Patrick Ness, The Rest of Us Live Here. I read one of Patrick Ness's books before when I was teaching, and I absolutely loved it. and it was a book that moved very easily between young adult and adult. This one I didn't feel it did so much. I haven't done the actual review for this one. This will be coming up on the channel later. It's a good young adult book, but for me it didn't really translate to be a good adult book, if you see what I mean. But yeah, for teenagers, it's all to do with a group of teenagers who are graduating and about to start college, and it's all to do with teenage angst and absent parents and discovering sexuality and stuff like that. It's a good young adult read, but I wouldn't have said so much an adult read. I'm just going to try and find the other Kindle book that I read, and it was, this is going to stay in camera, Joanne Harris, and it's Peaches for Monsieur Le Curé. It's the third book in her Chocolat series and carries on the story of Vianna Rocha. She's returned now to the village, and it's, if you like Joanne Harris, if you like the series, you'll love this one as well. That's all I can say really. It's my type of book. It might not be other people's ideal reads, but it's mine, and it's one of those books that you can just curl up and read and be transported into a world where there's lots of chocolate. Next one, The Margarine by Rachel Kushner. It was on the Booker Prize shortlist in 2018. It's set in a women's correctional facility, and you follow the women in there, one in particular. You hear some of their stories, but not all of their stories, which is a little bit frustrating at times because you get bits of their lives. It looks at the injustice of the prison system for a poor woman who cannot afford a good defence lawyer, and what happens to her, to these people. I think, yeah, it deserved to be on the Booker list. I was a bit ambivalent towards it. It didn't really move me in any way. I didn't really get engaged with the characters, so it's a decent read. This one, A Ghost in the Throat by Dorian Nigrifa, you will love. I, again, like 1,000 Ships, this is one of the highlights of my September reads. It's the story of the narrator tells her story, and she's a young mother, and she discovers the poetry. Well, she's always known about the poetry of Eileen O'Connell, who's a 17th century noblewoman whose husband was killed, and wrote this lament to him. She's always known about this poem, but at this present time she wants to find out more about the poet, because nothing exists about her. They don't even know where she's buried, when she died, anything like that. You hear of her from the male literature, and it's her search for this poet, and it's lovely. It really is. So the two books that I'm going to recommend out of my September reads that I would recommend you rush out and buy are these two, because you'll love them. If you like my videos, you know, hit the subscribe button and the notification button, and I can then you'll know when I upload any more. But yeah, if you've got any comments about the books I've read, if you've read them, if you disagree with anything I've said, yeah, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. So that's all for now. Take care. Bye.